Well, good morning. Welcome to Zen Live. It's Monday and we're pumped up and ready to go. And our Tolle quote to kick off this talk has always been a favorite of mine and also somewhat confusing of mine to talk about. And let's look at it. When you complain, you make yourself into a victim. When you speak out, you're in your power. So change the situation by taking action or speaking out, if necessary or possible. Leave the situation or accept it. All else is madness. Well, there's several ways for us to go with this. So I'm not sure how we're going to go because I'm speaking my word. And when you speak your word, you don't know where it's going to go because it's creative. You're spontaneously speaking your word. It's not all written down and programmed for effect, you see. But I do remember one thing about my mother, who lived to be 102, and she would always say about her health, which is kind of a metaphor for this, if I can fix it, I get. That means if the doctors can fix it. If I can fix it, I get it fixed. If not, I accept it. So, in other words, if you have a physical situation, ailment, if you can get it fixed, get it fixed. But if you can't, accept it. Don't complain. Don't become a victim. Don't complain, you see. So that's one area of this, and the other. So the way I have been moving with this particular quote is I go to my favorite Catholic prayer: "Speak but the word, speak but the word, and my soul will be healed." So speak the word, and then I go from there. I go to the movie The King's Speech, which was all about finding your voice, finding your word. And the idea, speak your word, speak but my word in my. Anyway, the whole means soul, which also means healed. Soul. When the prayer says my soul will be healed, that means I'll be whole, I'll be complete, I'll be one word. You see. Because, all the Native Americans always said about the Europeans, they speak with forked tongue. So speaking with forked tongue is speaking contradictory words or words that don't agree with your action. So when you speak your word, your action and your speech are the same. That's what that means. Speak your word. Soul, heal, whole, you see. Not, I say one thing and do another. That's what the biblical prophets called hypocrisy. And they were always railing about Israel people being hypocrites, you see. And that's the big problem in today when we look for integrity. Integrity means whole, soul, healed, one word, not two, not contradiction. And now, right away, we move into politics and the divisiveness of today's word, particularly with Trump and the contradictory words that come out. Everything comes out like this, you see. Where is the one? So, this whole idea then of speak but your word, speak but the word, and my soul will be healed. And this has always confused me about this, because leave the situation or accept it. All else is madness. And then I thought, well, this whole idea that's on the news constantly, day, repeal and replace. R&R. And there's a double bind here. Now, the Republican Party has been successful in the last 40 years because it spoke with one voice. Newt Gingrich organized and shaped the modern movement conservatives by handing out talking points so that everybody on the media, every Republican, said the same talking points. So when you looked at it, it was like, wow, they're speaking with one word. They have integrity. They have principle. They speak with one word. But the madness comes. All else is madness. Madness happens when we get caught in a double bind. And a double bind is when no matter what you say, you lose. If you say this, you lose. If you say that, you lose. So you get into wow, 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 wow. You get into my favorite Gestalt picture. You can't choose the old woman or the young woman because they are mutually dependent. You can't exclude one. That's a double bind. If you choose the old woman, you lose because you haven't, speaking the whole here, the whole is both. Not one or the other. The whole is both, but you can't choose one or the other to get the whole. So what is the whole, you see? So the whole is your word. When you speak your word, that is the whole and not either or. And that speaking your word is a creative word. It's not a choice. It is a leaping forth. It is a spontaneous response to a situation that is both your action and your word combined. So there is nobody in there thinking about speaking. There's no self-consciousness. There's no little self in there. Oh, am I saying the right thing? Or what should I say? Oh, did I say that right? Or, oh my God, what will people think? See, that's not the word. Your word is fearless. When you speak your word, there's no uncertainty or equivocation or tremors or is this the right thing or not? You see, you just do it like the Nike commercial. It's like in the zone in a basketball game. You don't, oh, should I shoot now? Your word and your action are one, you see, when you speak the word. So this word with a capital W is, in religious terms, it would say God's word. But since we're trying to understand this in secular language, it's your word. It's your true self that breaks forth out of a double bind. But just a little side trip on the Republican Party with their R&R, repeal and replace. They've got themselves into a double bind and they can't speak their word. So the Republican Party has lost its center. It's lost its power. It can't do anything because it can't speak its single united word. It can't speak with one word, you see. It's divided. And that's because in this particular situation, if you repeal Obamacare, you lose. If you replace Obamacare with something that doesn't have the same benefits, you lose. Lose, lose. So this creates a loss of center, a loss of power, and it's a good example of madness. Madness. Because they can't speak. So, and Trump is frustrated because he can't speak. He speaks his word, but it doesn't do anything. So, this whole, where can we go with this? When you speak out, you're in your power. Don't make yourself into a victim. Well, let's take a look at this victim thing. I think that because it seems like if you look at it on an individual level and a collective level, there is in America a loss of America's word, our center. We're not speaking from the center. We're speaking from fragments, from partitions, you see. One from the Tower of Babel is broken, so all these different pieces are speaking. There's no one word, you see. We've lost the center. We've lost the om. We've lost om. We've lost the original word, and so it's just a babble. And this is madness, and people know it. It's a collective neurosis, and so there is so this is all this fear. We're not on the right track. We're not on the right track. Well, that feeling we're not on the right track is being out of alignment with your word. If you can't speak your word, you feel you're not on the right track. You're oscillating between the old and the young. Wah, wah, wah. The feedback loop, you see. Nobody's moving. Life is not living. Life speaks with one voice, the voice of life. So when we find our word, we find our life. Because life is one. But it's many, but it is its source is one. So when life moves, it creates itself as one. So this is, speaking your word is a creative word. And creativity is power. Because creativity creates a world, and then you live in it. The artist creates a world with his art, and we create a world and then live in it. We're all creating a world and living in it, you see, but we think we're being created. We think we're a victim. And that's kind of like this, the worldview that we're living in now creates victims. And we're tired of it. But we don't know how to get out because it's a double bind. What is the worldview that creates a victim? Well, either the religious or the scientific worldview both creates us, you and me, as a victim. The scientific worldview says, well, there was a big bang and it just was a mutation, I don't know, it happened, and then that sets off a chain reaction of accidents and mutations, survival of the fittest, and this whole thing is just created, and there's no purpose in it because there's no God in it, so we're really accidental. We really have no purpose. We're just bumping around in here. See, there's no meaning to it. It can tell you how things get done. Science will tell you how it happened, but not why. So we're kind of like a victim. Here, we're just stardust, created by this blind system of chance meetings and mutations, accidents, you see. That's the feeling of a victim. And the religious view doesn't change anything, except that it says instead of the Big Bang creating everything, God created everything. But you're created. So in both views, I'm the created, and I have no power. I certainly don't have God created me. I didn't create God, you see. So I'm kind of like the created in both situations. And when you are the created, that means you're a thing. Like a little machine, a little robot. You're created. You're not the creator. So that means you're a victim. So the feeling is the same. So, in the science world, we bow to the science to fix things. In the religious world, we bow to God to fix things. But they're both, scientist or God, are the fixers, which we have to bow to in order to be fixed. So I go to the doctor to fix me. Or I go to the priest and Jesus to fix me, to speak my word, you see, to heal me, you see. The victim complaining, oh, I got this, all this, play. Why me? So this whole idea of the victim is really a creation of our either our mythic worldview or our scientific materialistic worldview. And they're both reaching their limits. They're both coming to the end of their facility, where we can't bow to science to fix everything, because science, technology, all of the things our civilization's made is cooking the earth. And the religious view is no help, because it just creates more division. Religious wars. So we're at a point where the feeling of being a victim is a double bind, kind of like repeal and replace. We can't move, you see. So what happens when this double bind, this loss of center happens? There's only two ways to go. We either go into anger. Now, anger restores power. That's basically what anger does. So, and we all know this because we all get angry. And we get angry when we're in a situation where we feel the victim, loss of power. And we feel the victim when we're in a double bind. Lose, lose. If I do this, I lose. If I do that, I lose. I get angry because I've lost my ability to choose. When I choose with certainty, I speak my word. Boom. But if I can't speak my word, and I'm wah, 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 I get angry. So anger restores power. Makes us feel like we're doing something. Restores our center. Restores our word. But it's failed creativity. The other way we go when we're in the double bind and loss of center is to create our word out of the double bind. So that creative word is whole because it incorporates the opposites of the double bind. It's just the Nike commercial, do it. One just does it. One just leaps out in a creative response to the situation. People, all heroes are people who, in a situation, spoke their word through action and saved somebody at the risk of their own life. See, the double bind there is that if I don't save that person, I lose. If I do save that person, I may lose myself. That's a lose-lose. Can't act, you see. So the hero is one that speaks his word and just does it. And when you talk to them after they just did it and rescued the person, lifted up the car, jumped into a river and rescued them, when you speak to them about that, they have the feeling that I'm not the hero. This just happened. I just did it. Something was doing me. So there's a little bit of embarrassment about getting a big medal because their little thinking self doesn't feel like they did it. I didn't choose it. It seems something chose me. I just did it. Can't explain it. I just did it. Don't know how I did it. It's like lifting my arm. So how did you lift your arm? I don't know. I just did it. You see? How did you do that? I don't know. Who are you? I don't know. So when you speak your word, you don't know who you are. When you speak your word, there's no sense of me speaking. There's just the speaking. There's just the doing. And that's creative, you see. You're just the action, not a split self into a little thinker calculating what you're going to do so you get approval or get to something in the future. When you speak the word, there is no future. When you speak your word, there is no time. And we all have that experience. We're in a situation where death is close and we're just doing something to get out of there. There's a sense of timelessness. There's no time. It's only after you get through it that you say, oh, wow, that was in time. But when you're doing it, there's no time. When you're creating something, there's no time. It's only after you create something that you say, oh, wow. And now it fits into the flat world again, you see. But when you're doing it, you're just the doing of it. You're just your word, you see. So this speaking your word requires and I think this is what, this has always been a little confusing to me, but when he says leave the situation or accept it, accepting the situation means that you accept the double bind and you act through it. The double bind generates the energy for your creative leap, for your speaking of your word. You see, so this speaking your word requires energy. And I think you know that when you speak your word or you finally speak out, you finally become your word in a creative act or in a situation or something, that action has tremendous energy. Creativity has tremendous energy. Idea, suddenly you get this idea of repainting all your rooms. Oh, that's a creative idea. And you've got all this energy and you just go and paint and paint and paint and paint. And then when you get the room painted, whew, the energy's gone. Wow. And you look over there on the wall and you missed a spot. Oh, I missed a spot. But it may take you a year to paint that spot. You just can't get the energy up to do it. I know I've got spots. When the creative idea was there, I had lots of energy. After the energy is, I'll get to it. You see. And it's just a spot. So this creative idea has energy. Whether it's energy to redo your garden, or just, whatever we do, we get these ideas to do something, and the idea seems to have the energy in it. A new idea for a business, there's tremendous energy in that. A new idea for a work of art, for a project. Why does that idea contain energy, you see, when other ideas don't? Well, an idea that contains energy is one that contains is one that accepts the opposites and creates an idea that contains the opposites. It's like a battery. Take a battery. I don't have my battery here. Take a battery. It's got a positive and a negative. It's got an old woman and a young woman in it. You can't choose one without the other. If you just have positive, the thing won't work. If you just have negative, it won't work. You got to have them both together simultaneously. Not one causing the other, not one dominating the other, but they are simultaneously. They're opposites. They can't be one, yet they are two. They're one, but two. That's ambiguous. It's wah, 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 wah. It's like, you see? When you can hold the opposites together without one dominating the other, without leaving it, but you're accepting it, you're accepting the opposites, that creates tension. See, each one wants to be the whole, but neither can be the whole, right? Let there be one is the commandment of life. Let there be one. So now you got two, but they're mutually dependent, like the old woman and the young woman. So there's this tension to be the one. I'm the one. No, I'm the one. No, I'm the one. So if you can accept that and hold that, what happens is, bam, there is a leap, a creative leap, boom, for a new whole that contains the two opposites. So this new idea contains the energy of the opposites in an idea that takes that energy into the world as a project or as love or as marriage or whatever. Marriage is a single idea that contains the opposites. I'm going to get married. That's an idea that contains the tension of me and this partner. Male and female. That's positive and negative. Marriage contains them, and marriage then creates new worlds, little babies. Or it creates you as bigger than you were when you were alone. So this whole idea of the creative word, speaking about the word, is healing, is creative because it makes out of the energy of the contained opposites, using that energy to create a new world that was bigger, that contains the previous opposites, yet is bigger than the parts. We see this all the time, but we don't really. I know myself. It's difficult to get a real grasp of where this energy comes from when I speak my word and why it's creative, and that anger is basically failed creativity. Anger is a failure at transcendence. Anger is failed transcendence. Transcendence is when you create a new whole, a new soul that contains the inconsistencies in your nature. So if you have inconsistencies, and I know myself that when I first started my practice of yoga back in 1970, and I went to get this yoga teacher, she had a big Indian, a guru and all that, and I was going into this yoga path wholeheartedly. Jumped in. I tried Christianity, went to seminary, didn't work, so forth. Yes, I dove in. And my approach was that she would speak the word and heal my inconsistencies in my lower nature, you see. Or the guru would speak my word. So I had to go through that stage. But the driving force, as I look back, and the teacher said to me, I said, why can't I, why is it that you won't let me become a big yoga teacher? Why am I not ready? Oh, you're not ready yet. Sorry, Charlie, you're not ready. Sorry, you're not ready yet. Well, she said, you have inconsistencies in the lower nature. And I said, oh, okay. So basically, I was on the path to heal the inconsistencies, to find my wholeness that transcended the inconsistencies in my lower nature. See, we all have inconsistencies in our lower nature. That's what it means to be human. But it also means to be human is to transcend that by creating yourself out of the inconsistencies that are given to you as your nature. So this is why a lot of comics, like Woody Allen, for instance, are neurotic, and they use their neurosis as their comedy persona. So they create a comedy act out of their neurotic personality. So what does that do? They have created a whole person by using and accepting their neurosis. So if you accept your inconsistencies in your lower nature, you don't repeal and replace your lower nature. You can't do that. You accept it. You can't leave it either. So you accept your inconsistencies, and in the acceptance of the old woman and the young woman, you create a new person that includes the inconsistencies in a harmonious way. Your inconsistencies work for you. Your imperfections work for your perfection. Now, instead of fighting them, instead of repressing them, instead of trying to leave them, instead of complaining and being a victim of it, you transcend them by accepting them, by accepting the ambiguity in your nature. You see, the double bind is ambiguous. It's lose-lose. I can't, whatever I do, it's each one, they're both of equal weight. They're mutually, the double bind here is this, the old woman and the young woman. I can't choose either one. But there is one. What is it? I don't know. So this is like the double bind creates potential energy for the creative leap, to create yourself again, to be reborn. That's another meaning of that. The second birth. And in a spiritual term, you could say creating yourself in Christ. Christ is whole. So you're creating yourself whole, you see. But we have to understand that this is not a permanent fix. You don't create yourself whole and then that's it. I don't have to do anything. No. It's an ongoing, dynamic, creative life. So life is ongoing. So you're constantly creating yourself. You're constantly creating the world you live in. You're constantly speaking your word, you see. You're constantly healing yourself and the fragmentation of the world, which is constantly being fragmented. The world is constantly breaking up and healing, destruction and creation as one, you see. So to participate in that, to be in alignment with that destruction and creation, is to create yourself out of your own ashes or double binds or failures or imperfections, you see. So the imperfections and the failures are the fuel to your creativity and your renewal, you see. So, did I leave anything out? I guess not. So let's end there, and thanks for dropping in, and I'll see you this evening at Martini time.